In the heart of Lagos, where the city never truly sleeps, there is a story that mothers whisper to their daughters and elders shake their heads at when remembered. It is the tale of a babysitter, one that still haunts the shadows of the city. It all started with a woman named Amina. A young university student, struggling to make ends meet, she took a job as a babysitter in the high-end district of Ikoyi. The family she worked for, the Adeliks, were well-off but secretive. They had a beautiful mansion, but no one ever really saw them in public. Rumors swirled around them, tales of strange traditions, eerie rituals, and unexplained disappearances. One fateful evening, Amina received a call from Mrs. Adelik, asking if she could babysit their young son, Ton, for the night. The request was sudden, but the pay was generous. Without hesitation, Amina agreed. She arrived at the grand house just as the sun dipped below the horizon. Mrs. Adelik, adorned in gold jewelry that seemed older than time itself, greeted her at the door. Ton is already asleep, she said, her voice void of warmth. Do not wake him up. And whatever happens, do not answer any knocks on the window. Amina found the instructions odd but nodded in agreement. After all, a job was a job. As the night deepened, the air in the house grew still. The silence was almost suffocating. She sat on the plush sofa, scrolling through her phone, when she heard a soft tapping at the window. Her breath hitched. It could have been the wind, she thought. But then she heard it again. Tap. 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 Slow and deliberate. Remembering Mrs. Adelik's warning, she ignored it. But the tapping persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Heart pounding, she crept toward the window and peered through the curtains. Outside stood a woman, her face obscured by a veil, her fingers pressed against the glass. Amina's blood turned to ice. The woman's lips moved, though no sound came out. Then, suddenly, the figure vanished, dissolving into the darkness. Trying to steady her breath, Amina locked the window and stepped away. The air around her felt heavier, as if something unseen lurked within the room. She turned on all the lights, seeking comfort in their glow. Hours passed. Just as she began to convince herself that it had been a trick of the mind, she heard something new, a creak from upstairs. Her stomach tightened. Ton was supposed to be asleep. Cautiously, she climbed the stairs. The hallway stretched before her, eerily silent. She reached Ton's door and hesitated before pushing it open. The crib was empty. Panic surged through her veins. Ton, she whispered, stepping into the room. A slow rustling came from the corner. Her eyes darted toward it, and there, crouched in the darkness, was the woman from the window. She grinned, revealing rows of sharp, blackened teeth. In her skeletal arms, she cradled Ton, rocking him gently. Amina opened her mouth to scream, but no sound escaped. The woman leaned forward and whispered in a voice that sent shivers down her spine, "You shouldn't have looked." Darkness swallowed the room. When the Adeliks returned, they found the house empty. The only sign of Amina was her phone, lying on the floor with the screen cracked. Ton was safe in his crib, sleeping soundly as if nothing had happened. But Amina was never seen again. To this day, parents in Lagos warn their babysitters about the woman at the window. Some say she was a spirit searching for a lost child. Others believe she was an omen of doom. But one thing remains certain: if you ever hear tapping at your window in the dead of night, it is best to ignore it. Because once you look, she will find you. The legend of the babysitter, however, does not end there. Over the years, more stories emerged of babysitters who had encounters eerily similar to Amina's. Some claimed to hear whispers through their windows, soft lullabies sung in an unknown language. Others spoke of seeing shadows move across the walls, only to vanish when they turned their heads. The accounts varied, but one thing remained constant: the tapping at the window. One such case was that of a young man who had taken up babysitting as a way to fund his education. When he was hired by a family in Victoria Island, he thought nothing of the eerie stories. But on his second night in the home, he too heard the tapping. At first, he dismissed it. But when it persisted, he made the same mistake Amina had: he looked. What he saw changed him forever. The woman at the window did not vanish this time. She stepped forward, her presence seeping into the room like smoke. Ifeanyi tried to run, but his feet refused to move. She reached out, her fingers impossibly long, her grin stretching wider. "You looked," she whispered, her voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. The next morning, Ifeanyi was found outside, his body frozen in terror, his hair turned stark white. He could not speak of what he had seen, only muttering the same words over and over, "She is still looking, she is still looking." To this day, babysitters in Lagos share these stories in hushed tones. And when the wind howls at night, carrying with it the sound of soft knocking, they know better than to look. Because once you see her, she never stops watching.